I am just getting my trailer hooked up. Skeletor has an appointment at the vet's tomorrow. The last appointment I tried to take him to, my trailer was actually frozen to the ground. The weather has gotten a little bit nicer, but I don't want to risk it freezing overnight, so I'm hooking it up, giving it a quick once-over. Everything seems to be working like it should, so I'm just going to leave it hooked up until we're ready to leave tomorrow. We do have the first appointment of the day, so it's pretty early for these guys. Studman is going to accompany Skeletor to the vet today. This will be Studman's first wintertime trailer ride, and only the second time in the trailer that I'm expecting him to get on first. My trailer does have rubber mats on the floor, and I typically do not have shavings inside. But in the wintertime, there's moisture that can collect on it, and that can be pretty slippery. I think Studman was just a little bit apprehensive because this is the first time he's getting on the trailer when there's shavings inside. I did give him a little treat, so there's a positive association made between the trailer. He does have a little bit of trouble still sliding over to get inside of his slant, so I spent some extra time letting him know he was a really good boy. Then I went around to the other side of the trailer and gave him a few more treats. I want to say this is his fourth or maybe fifth trailer ride, so he really hasn't been on a trailer that much. Skeletor, on the other hand, has been on tons of trailer rides. I've never had any problems with him. I did want to see if he'd get on the trailer without me, but he wasn't quite brave enough today, so I hopped in the trailer and he came on right away. Scarlet was pretty fresh running around outside. I did load these two on the trailer before I fed everyone else breakfast, and Scarlet thought it was unacceptable that she had not been fed yet. Studman and Skeletor stood on the trailer for about 15 minutes while I fed the other horses, and we ended up getting to the vet a few minutes before our appointment time. I always like to show up early if I can. I think it's important to let the horses get enough time to settle down after the trailer ride.
Hold on, buddy.
Skeletor had been having what I thought was a slight lameness in one of his stifles. The vet watched him move normally and then did some neurologic tests on him. After those, she did some flex tests. In horses, these are used to make the lameness a little bit more obvious. Skeletor did have a significant increase in the lameness of both hind legs after these tests. In a young horse like Skeletor who may have been malnourished, it is very common to see OCDs in the stifles. So we did go ahead and get a bunch of views of both stifles to see if we could find anything abnormal that may be causing him lameness. In order to get perfect pictures, Skeletor was sedated for this process. And here is a picture of his stifle. For those of you guys who may not be familiar with horse anatomy, the stifle functions a lot like the human knee joint. It is located right here. It is a pretty complex high motion joint that can cause horses a lot of problems. When you get a pre-purchase exam at a higher end sale, this is one of the areas they will look at. You can see right here is Skeletor's patella. There are tons of different things we're looking for in these x-rays. One of them is any damage to the joint surfaces. Skeletor is so young, it's unlikely that we would see any damage to these areas yet. It was kind of interesting to see that Skeletor's growth plates were still not closed yet, which should have happened somewhere between 24 and 30 months of age. He also had a fibula that was not complete. And just so you guys can see the difference, this is a full fibula. Both of those things could be a result of his poor nutrition when he was very young. This is an OCD. This is not Skeletor, but another horse. Although Skeletor's bone surfaces were a little flat, we did not see any evidence of OCDs. This is a bone chip in another horse. Skeletor did not have any of those either. This joint may not look very complex, but if you know where all of the tendons and ligaments attached, then you can totally see how this joint creates a lot of problems for horses. Some of the damage caused by trauma to these tendons and ligaments can be seen on x-rays. This is another picture of a horse's stifle, with the arrow pointing to some areas of calcification around the meniscus. There weren't any really big red flags in Skeletor's x-rays. So we did decide to also do his fetlocks as well. Here are some bone chips in another horse. We did not find anything abnormal in Skeletor's. While Skeletor's stifles did show some evidence of his malnutrition, his open growth plate and his incomplete fibula aren't really the likely culprits of his current lameness. Skeletor does have some evidence of prior trauma to his hip area. He has some obvious damage to the muscle in that area, and it's very likely that the tendons, ligaments, and even the bones have damage as well. He's had a little spot right there since I bought him at the auction, and I've never had any problems with it before, so I was surprised that she thought this was the root of his problem. She really did not paint a very happy picture for Skeletor's future. She thinks that it is unlikely I'll ever be able to start him under saddle, and that this issue is going to progress and get worse as he gets older. As much as I was looking forward to actually riding Skeletor, if he has to be a pasture pet for the rest of his life, that is totally fine. We did also discuss the prospect of euthanasia in the event that it progresses to a point where we can't control his pain. The horses I buy from auctions are usually the worst of the worst. The simple fact that a lot of them make it through the refeeding process and their initial rehab sometimes is a miracle. When I got home, I went back and I looked through Skeletor's history. When I got him in the spring of 2022, he was emaciated, and even though I do have several pictures of him favoring that leg, both of his hips did show a significant amount of muscle atrophy. Even his left side, which looks normal today, had a significant indent in the same spot where the current one is. A lot of people don't realize when a horse gets this thin, their body actually uses their muscles to survive. And there's really no telling which muscles the body will choose to destroy in order to fuel the essential organ functions like the heart and lungs. This picture was about 2 weeks after his initial refeed, and you can see the muscles in his hind end starting to fill in. I found some videos of him from last spring 2023. He had grown a significant amount at this point, and he started gaining lots of muscle mass. I was really trying to find some videos where he looked off or a little bit lame, but he looks pretty darn sound. One thing the vet and I discussed about his possibility for lameness was a degenerative disease of his tendons and ligaments. I was feeling a little bit more hopeful after I went back and looked at all of his previous videos and pictures. I can't imagine that that spot on his hip wouldn't have caused him problems earlier, especially when he was still so skinny. I gave Tiny some extra snuggles when I got home. I'm really hoping that this is one of the times when the vet is wrong. Hopefully we'll run through a course of anti-inflammatories for a few weeks, and whatever Skeletor tweaked when he was messing around during turnout will be better. At this point in time, there's no use worrying about his future. He was on stall rest for the entire cold snap last week, and after it he was incredibly sore. So we decided he should be able to have as much turnout as I can provide to him, which is a little bit tricky because he messes around with the other horses so much. For the last couple of days, he's been getting turned out all day long in my smaller arena. With the pain meds, I have noticed that he's been standing more normally on his leg, and he's even trotting around pretty sound. I'm trying really hard to stay positive about this horse, but if you guys would put some positive vibes out in the universe for him, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.